Hi, everybody. Good morning. My name is Elaine, and I'm a compulsive overeater and food addict. I weigh 3 meals a day from the Gray Sheet. I write them down. I call them into my sponsor. I eat nothing in between except black coffee, tea, and diet soda. And just for today, I am abstinent, and abstinence has to come first in my life. Um, I thank you so much, Steph, and I think Victor for your work, your service on this meeting, and Karen, thank you for timing. Um, yes, today I have 96 days of back-to-back gray sheet abstinence. So I'm a newbie again. I'm back, and I wanted, meditating on this a little bit and praying about it a little bit earlier to think about how I'm going to talk about relapse and coming back in. Um, I know I see so many familiar faces here today, and that's lovely, and so many that I don't know, and that's lovely too. I don't get to Pacific Coast meetings often, which tells you something about where I am in DC. I do a lot of morning meetings and noontime meetings, and sometimes I hop on that British meeting at night. And you know, I love to do the format for these qualifications, like where was I? What was my eating journey like? How did I get here? And what is it like for me today? So a couple of years ago, this would have been in 2022, I hit what I thought was my rock bottom. I was 250 pounds, maybe a little bit more. I was spiritually deprived. I felt like I had tried every diet solution and had not realized that I had a spiritual malady and not just a physical problem. The physical manifestation of that spiritual illness was really showing, and it hurt me. I was in pain. I think I was pre-diabetic. I didn't like myself. I certainly didn't love myself, and so I had low self-esteem, depression, hip pain, high blood pressure, and I was headed down a bad road. And I have not really thought of myself as a very spiritual person and certainly not a religious person in my life, but I was raised up Catholic. And so I went to a Catholic church and I got down on my knees and I prayed, God, please help me with this. I have no other place to turn. And I heard the message, get yourself to OA. So this was like December 2023. Or 2022 rather. I got to a couple of OA meetings and I didn't really find what I was looking for, but somewhere in the back of my mind, I remembered something about a gray sheet and the strictness and the kind of the structure of that plan working for someone. So I looked it up online and I called a number and I got someone on the phone who helped me get to a meeting and get a sponsor. And I was abstinent. Well, there were a couple of days in between there that I wasn't, and I kind of had to get a scale, and a couple of things happened. But I did. I got myself a scale, and I got myself a sponsor, and I turned over my food, and I started on my abstinent journey. And for a year, I did not eat anything off the gray sheet. I attended many, many meetings. I did service and lost 70 pounds, and it was a fantastic journey. And just as I was feeling cocky, proud, as though I had graduated, I picked up and I thought, oh, that's nothing. I'll get right back on it. And I couldn't, for the life of me, latch back on. It was a 50-pound bite that I took. And it wasn't even a very good bite. Like, I would love to tell you that I had a fabulous time out in the wilderness. No, a gray sheet has ruined my binging for all time. Okay. But, so that's my little relapse journey. Where did I start though? I was a skinny kid. I didn't have a lot of problems growing up in upstate New York. I had a pretty calm life. But when I went to college, I was involved in a date rape incident that was really, really traumatizing and terrible. And I felt so ashamed and so embarrassed and so confused by that rather than getting the emotional support and help that I needed, I just turned to food. And I stuffed myself until I didn't feel the pain. And I stuffed myself until I didn't feel the pain. And I'll say it again because I just could not stop eating because, of course, the pain was still there. And the food worked as only a very temporary balm for this terrible emotional pain that I was suffering from. And years went by, and it was almost like I got into this dramatic cycle of binging and then purging. And I didn't purge with vomiting, I used laxatives to purge. So it was a hell on my body. And it was not satisfying, and it was gross and a terrible way to live. But I would go years obese, and then I would take a diet like Jenny Craig or a bariatric medicine specialist, or just like sheer force of will, not eating most of the day, and get down to a normal weight, and then the cycle would start again. For years, I was addicted to diet pills that I got from a bariatric doctor here in Washington, D.C. They're kind of a speedy pill. And between those kind of amphetamine pills and water pills, I was able to get down to a very, normal weight. And then as soon as I stopped taking the pills, all the weight came back on with interest. And it never didn't come back on with interest. That was part of the cycle. So I had a good life, in some ways outside of abstinence. I was able to find my husband, and we've had two healthy and strong children who are now 13 and 15 years old. And we both, we have a fairly good life, but the emotional pain and torture, the insides and the outsides simply didn't match, and they still don't, honestly. I know that I have a disease. I know that it's never going to go away. Accepting that has been really hard, and I think a hard part of my journey is that first step, acceptance, and getting to a place where I can, for 90 days together, 90 days back to back, a day at a time, put that scale on the food and accept the fact that I will never eat like other people. I will eat like you, which makes me feel happy that I have a fellowship of fellow travelers who also understand this disease. But I will never be able to, eat with abandon, eat without weighing and measuring, eat without turning it over to God. When I am in charge of the food, it is a mess. It's a mess in my head, and the noises never stop outside of the gray sheet. Now, when I'm on the gray sheet, when I weighed and measured those meals, when those meals are committed, and I call them to my sponsor, the noise quiets down. I have other conversations going on, but not about the food anymore, which is so freeing. And even if I start trying to compromise on the gray sheet, and I'll say, oh, well, I can have this thing instead of that, the noise is back. So for me, I have to eat exactly what I've committed and nothing more, nothing less. And then I leave the food, for the day after I've had my third meal, and I go and I do other things. And I find that if I go to bed on time, this is one of the ways that I stay abstinent, because I was a nighttime binger. One of the things that I would do at night would be to feed the kids, get everybody in bed, and then go to the kitchen and fill up and stock up on sugary and salty snacks at night after having had like a kind of a normal day of food. And those nighttime binges really packed on the pounds. How did I get back in, though? Might be a good thing for those of you struggling to know. So I had put I never got a 1 year chip. I never quite made it to the year, but I was coming close. I was coming close up on it. And I left the program, and I called somebody a couple of months later who I'd known in the program, who I thought was really great, and she's now my sponsor. And she said, I am here for you. There is never a time that you can't call me. And I said, I think it's not going to work for me right now. Like, I guess I wasn't ready to surrender. But she said, call me when you're ready. And I did. And she's been my sponsor ever since. And she's been incredibly patient with me. She has given me tremendous grace. My first sponsor was very, very strict and very helpful. And it was an excellent experience learning about the gray sheet the first time through. But the sponsor that I have now is incredibly kind, and I think I needed that safe remothering, in a way, reparenting through the gray sheet, because she helps me understand that's not acceptable. This is okay. this optional food is, she really is very patient with me about all of the particulars of the sheet. Thank you so much, Karen. I see you. Thank you. So that's been good. As I was coming back into the program this time, I was met, a GreySheeter said, let's meet for a coffee. And I said, fantastic. I was traveling up to New York City. And I got there, and 3 other GreySheeters were there with hugs and love and support. And I couldn't have felt more wonderful. I have to confess that I am one of these people who can't stand to be a member of any group that will let me in, okay? So there's a kind of internal resistance to love, an internal resistance to the kindness of others. I don't feel good about myself, so I can't imagine how you would want me around, right, is my feeling. When these women were there for me, I felt really cared for. And they say in the program, thank you for loving me until I can love myself. And I still feel that way. Thank you all for being patient with me and caring about me and loving me enough so that I can start to love myself a little bit every day. And I have to say, I do feel very loved when I open that lunch bag or lunch box and I see that weighed and measured meal ready for me to eat. It feels like a kind of reparenting of self, right? I didn't want to cry, but it's so emotional for me to realize that I can give myself exactly what I need. And what I need are those 3 weighed and measured meals. I also need a meeting. I need a meeting a day. I probably need 2 a day. And when I'm in a really fit place, I get in 2 a day. And I get on a phone bridge, and it's just really gratifying to hear those messages. My new favorite phone bridge meeting is a Tuesday slogans meeting. It happens at noon Eastern time on Tuesdays. And there's something about those slogans that is like a warm bath for me. It's a warm bath of comfort. Do the next right thing. I keep living that message for myself. Do the next right thing. What's the next right thing? Maybe it's cleaning the kitchen. Maybe it's going to shop for some protein. Maybe it's preparing some of the other things that we're able to eat and prepare in advance so that I know that that's taken care of. What's the next right thing? I made a gynecologist appointment. I hadn't done that in years. I got a mammogram. I got a dentist appointment done. Those self-care things are some of the things that this program is teaching me, that it's okay to put yourself first and care for yourself first. You've got to put that gas mask on, or you're not going to be able to be there for the children and the husband or the job. So many times I put the job ahead of myself, and I will work into a frenzy or a frazzle and have skipped lunch, have skipped dinner. And I'm like, what's up? On the gray sheet, I do not forget to eat. Number one, I'm very hungry. So after that 4-hour window, I am very hungry and I'm very ready for my food. But I also realize if I don't feed myself properly, I'm not going to be very good at the work that I'm doing. I might be in a frenzy of activity and a lot of busyness, but I'm not doing a very thoughtful or very thorough job. So for me, those 3 weighed and measured meals help me weigh and measure my life. And I know you've all heard that before, but it's so true in this food addict's journey for sure. What is it like for me now? Well, now I get up in the morning, I make my black coffee, I make my abstinent breakfast, I get on my 9 o'clock Connecticut meeting, that's my favorite one, and I'm usually there. And then I have the 3 hours of work. I stop working, I walk around the block, I prepare my lunch. 4 hours after that first weighed and measured meal, I have my lunch. And then I work for the rest of the afternoon. I try again to do something else. Maybe I'm helping one of my children with their homework. 1 minute left. Thank you, Karen. Maybe I am, I've got this journal that I really like, and I write down my meals in advance, and I try to write down something that will spiritually motivate me for the day. And then I'll prepare my dinner meal. And I've found ways, I'm not perfect at this, where I'm also preparing meal for the rest of my family, and they eat some of the gray sheet food. Okay, so some of the orange vegetables maybe, or some of the protein, but they do their own thing and I do my own thing, and it's fine. And sometimes I have to eat much earlier than they do because they like to eat at 7:38, and I'm like, there's no way I'm waiting that long. But we're together, and I am present for them, and I'm available for myself. And I am so grateful for Kim for asking me to speak today. I'm so grateful for all of you for being here on this meeting and sharing this journey with me. Thank you so much.